This week, I had a client come to me and say, Brian, I have 350,000 in a Canadian RRSP that's just been sitting there for 25 years. I haven't been able to make any trades. I haven't withdrawn anything. What do I do with this? Today, we're going to talk about what your RRSP options are as a U.S. resident. Hi, my name is Brian Haggard. I'm a certified financial planner, chartered financial analyst, and I'm the founder of Retirement and Financial. We help simplify your cross-border retirement plan. And one of the biggest things that we help our clients with are what we call unlocking their Canadian retirement income. A lot of people, they have a lot of money up in Canada. They have RSPs up there, liras up there. Maybe they have checking accounts. They have potentially brokerage accounts up there. They have CPP that they qualify for up in Canada, OAS that they may qualify for up in Canada. They have all of this stuff, but as they're approaching retirement, they don't really know what it means for them. How much am I actually going to get on a monthly basis? How much should I be withdrawing from my Canadian RSP? And so, for a lot of our clients, instead of them retiring or feeling comfortable with retiring, they just keep on working, just not knowing how to deal with this Canadian accounts and benefits. And today we're going to talk about how we help our clients deal with and some options that you may want to deal with your Canadian retirement registered retirement savings plan. And so, first of all, one of the big concerns that our clients have or people have when they're thinking about withdrawing from their RRSP, their registered retirement savings plan, is, gosh, Brian, I don't want to have to go and file Canadian tax returns now, right? I'm a US resident. I haven't filed Canadian tax returns in forever. I don't want to start doing it now just because I'm taking money out of Canada. The nice thing about withdrawing money from your RRSP, turning on your Canada pension plan, turning on your OAS benefit, that should not mean that you have to now go out and file Canadian tax returns. Very few of our clients, even though they have those benefits coming to them, file Canadian tax returns. Some may find it beneficial to do so, but most of our clients do not file Canadian tax returns. You're not typically required to if those are your only sources of income. What happens when you take money out of your RRSP or an RIF or a LIRA in Canada, Canada will withhold money for taxes, either 15 or 25%. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we discuss your options here. But Canada will withhold this money for as taxes, and they kind of say, hey, we're done. You don't need to now file a Canadian tax return on top of that. Now, unfortunately, here as a US resident, or if you're a US citizen, you do have to include this Canadian withdrawals on your US taxes. Now, what happens is the money that Canada withholds for taxes now counts as a foreign tax credit here in the United States. So that helps you avoid some of the double taxation. It helps avoid the sting of taking this money out in Canada. And the nice thing, again, as I mentioned, these foreign tax credits makes it so that you don't have to file both US and Canadian taxes. Again, most of my US based clients are only filing Canadian taxes. So, what are your RRSP options? Typically, when our clients come to us, we kind of give them two options, or we work through two different options that they have with their RRSP. Either one is to convert your RRSP to what's called a RIF, a retirement income fund, and start annual withdrawals, or just take all of your RSP out at once in one large lump sum. Let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of both of those options. So, the first option, and I would say maybe it's the more common option, is converting your RRSP or RSPs to a RIF and starting annual withdrawals. What are the benefits of doing this? Well, the biggest benefits of doing this is there's Canada only withholds 15% for taxes on this type of distribution. In the next distribution we're going to talk about, if you take all of your money out of an RRSP as a lump sum, the withholding is actually 25%. So Now, let's just say that you have a $100,000 Canadian RRSP. You can convert that to an RIF. You can withdraw up to 10% of that account each year, whatever the starting value of that account is that year, and only have 15% withholding. So you can withdraw 10,000 Canadian per year from that account, or that at least that first year. And Canada is only going to withhold about 1,500, and you get the rest. And the nice thing about doing this is it starts to give you annual income. Every single year, you can rely on a little bit of income from Canada coming in. And it could be a really good option. If, we have some clients that have $1 million plus RRSPs, plus when you take it into account their liras and, spouses RRSPs, a lot of times that number's over $1 million. And they don't want to take all of that out at once. That could be a huge tax hit for a lot of people. So what they do is they'll convert those to RIFs and start taking out money on a year by year basis. Not just clients that have really large RSPs. We do have clients that have larger one or smaller ones, and they don't want to have really large taxes. So what they do is they just take out a little bit every single year. Um, Now, when you're thinking about taking out and how much you should be taking out, our strategy ultimately for our clients typically is we want to withdraw your Canadian accounts first. There's a couple reasons for that. State-wise, you really don't want to have a lot of Canadian money left over when you pass away. A lot of times that Canadian money kind of feels stuck up there. Investment options are typically limited. A lot of times people are paying more for their investments up in Canada than they would be here in the US. So now, if you are taking money out of your RIF on a yearly basis, we typically will advise people to try to take out the maximum amount that's allowable. And as I mentioned earlier, usually that's 10% per year that you can take out from your RIF and maintain only a 15% tax withholding. So that is one option for a lot of our clients. They convert their RSPs to a RIF, and then they just take out annual amounts and have the 15% withheld. A lot of our clients, they come to us and say, "Hey, Brian, I just want to rip off the Band-Aid. I just want to get this money out of Canada. It's been stuck there for 20, 30 years. I haven't been able to do anything with it, and I just want to get the money out." And so in that case, we can actually go in and take a large lump sum withdrawal, take out all of your money from your RSP. Now, there are some benefits of doing that. We just get all the money out, right? That you don't have to worry estate-wise, you don't have to worry about it. You may have a lot more investment options here in the US. You don't need to keep on filing, if you're filing those FBARs and 8938s, and you're doing that because your money is up in Canada and this is all you have up in Canada, it allows you may be able to stop filing those tax forms on a year-to-year basis. But again, probably the number one reason people say this is, "Hey, I just don't want to die and have my kids or my wife or husband have to worry about trying to navigate all of this cross-border financial planning as well," right? My kids are down here in the States. I just want to make it easier for them. Let's just take out all of the money at once. Now, the negative of doing this is that instead of, like I talked about earlier, where Canada only withholds 15% from an RIF payment, from it, if you take a lump sum payment from an RRSP, Canada is going to withhold 25%. So you're getting a much larger Canada withholding. Now, the other issue is if you have a really large RSP, all of that income gets added on to your US tax return. So that could increase your US taxes. Now, the way we try to alleviate that, the best time to take a lump sum distribution from your Canadian RRSP is to do it when you have little or no other US income. So a lot of times kind of our strategy is after you retire, but before maybe you turn on your Social Security benefits and you have very little other or maybe no US income, that tends to be the best time to take a lump sum distribution out of your RSPs. And in that case, a lot of times, actually, we'll try to lump all of your RSPs together and take it all out in the same year. We've done the math where some people have been able to withdraw $600,000 from their RSPs. Yes, they have to have that 25% withholding done by Canada, but that offsets all of their US taxes. They may not have to pay anything here in the US. It can be tricky to navigate that, and I wouldn't suggest doing it without talking to a financial advisor or you're a tax person beforehand, but it is possible to do. And the client, and for a lot of clients, they prefer to do that. Things that you do want to be kind of mindful of is all of this 25% foreign tax credit will offset your US federal taxes. It doesn't always offset your state taxes. So you may find that you could have a large state tax bill by taking this money out. It also may increase your Medicare penalties as Medicare is based on your costs or how much your income is. So you may have a really large Medicare penalty in the year that you take out all of this money. So I mentioned before that I had this client that came to us with this 350,000 RSP. What did they end up doing? And the decision that they ended up making, and we worked through it together, is they're going to take out all of that money in a year. They are going to do it in a lump sum. And his biggest reasoning was, I don't want to have to make my wife, I don't want to have my kids have to worry about this. The other issue that he had is that money's been sitting up there. A lot of it's very conservative. He's not able to change his investments, and he just wants to be done with it up there and move it down here where he can actually use it in retirement. And we have a lot of people in that situation. So that's not for everybody. He understands the tax consequences, but for a lot of people, that is a good choice for them. If you're struggling with kind of these decisions about how to handle your RSPs, your Canada pension plan, your OAS benefits up in Canada, feel free to reach out to us. That is what we help our clients do. We help simplify their cross-border retirement plan. You can schedule a complimentary consultation on our website, retiremitten.com. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thanks. Thanks a lot.